Hello, Billy the Artist here, back with another how to draw lesson, and today we're going to be doing Taylor Swift. Now, it's a ladies one, so we are looking back. We've done already Ariana Grande as a singer. We've also done Billie Eilish, and that's really good. But the last drawing lesson that I did was Professor Minerva McGonagall from Harry Potter, played by Dame Maggie Smith in the Harry Potter movies. And the reason I got these two opposite is we are now using this new grid. So check out straight away, link in the cards and the description for the new grids video, because I am doing this new grid that is a 2 centimetre grid, and I start right in the corner. Again, we'll go over this in a little bit, but before we go any further, please do like and subscribe. Tick the bell to be notified when new videos are uploaded and made available, and that would be fantastic. Now, these are in the How to Draw Portraits playlist. Obviously, Harry Potter, there is a separate playlist for that, but we've done Ariana Grande, and that was on the older grid that I used where I got a centre line, whereas I'm using this new one. And again, I'm doing this so that it's easier to upscale everything, but do check out the How to Draw Portraits playlist. There's lots in there, and there's a link in the videos to the actual portraits. There is the images that I actually use. I am putting up, as new videos are done, the new images with the grid on is up in my community tab on my YouTube channel, The Art of Billy, which is fantastic. Again, please do use the hashtag Drawing with Billy. That would be amazing. And do share on social media. And it's just great to see people developing their skills and learning to draw better using these grids. But this is just fantastic. Now, I have finished all 7 members of BTS. You'll see in this multi-image now, this little clip of the 7 drawing lessons. Again, they are in the portraits lesson playlist. There is also, though, there's got to be over 140 lessons now, 130, 140 lessons in the general How to Draw playlist, and that covers things with like cartoon characters and all kinds of different little creatures like that, and some badges, logos, things. So there's a lot of different variety depending on your skill levels. But I do these portraits to actually help you grow and develop your skills, doing things that are really, really complex. So anyway, if I just move McGonagall and Ariana, here we can see, just get the bit of dust off the paper. Here we can see we have the grid. Now again, you can just see the line. This is from the actual video lesson. You see me lay this grid down in real time. Now, I did this in ink, but I even draw these on. I draw them on with a 2B pencil, not a 2H. I draw the lines on darker so that you can see them. It just helps. Now, this grid is 2 centimetres. Again, look in the banner and you'll see the dimensions all the way across, but it just makes it easier. If you want to do inches, I've got A to J all the way across. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you want to do 10 inches, you just draw 10 inches. The last little line is ½ an inch. Down the side, we've got 14, 1 to 14. Again, same thing. You can use inches. If you want to make it twice the size, do 4 centimetres or 2 inches. It's very simple to scale this up, which is much easier. But I also use shapes. You can just draw straight in, and you can use shapes which help everything. Check out the link in the cards and the description. How to Draw Anything Part 1 using shapes. And I say in there, you can draw anything from a bird, a bee, a flea, a tree, a horse, a house, or anything else. And it's just a basis. That's for freehand drawing. It's very quick and very simple. So again, this is the grid that we are going to use, and we're going to start. Now, the equipment that we're going to use, I normally use a 2B, a 4B and an 8B pencil, just softer. So this is the 2B, as I say, the trusty 2B pencil. I am going to be using kitchen roll, which is tissue, the blending stump, and possibly the brushes on this, because it's a very, very soft image. It's going to be interesting to do this one. Now, rubbers, I'll rub out the grids afterwards with the Mars plastic. Then I use these kneadable putty rubbers, and This is a used one, this is a newer one, and you can see it's getting dirtier. But this one's been used a lot, and I use them for different things. And I explain as I go. And I have now got this. This is called a Mono Zero, Tombow Mono Zero, very fine eraser. And I should be able to get much clean, small little lines than this one. So it's just having tools to do the job. Now, I have used previously paint to get highlights, but I do this, and I will end up getting a paint pen, but I've used gouache and acrylic before. But I am going to do this drawing just allowing the paper to show through for the highlights, and this is going to be interesting. So now we are going to get the trusty 2B pencil, and we are going to crack on with drawing Taylor Swift, and this is going to be really lovely. Now I'm going to start, I'm just blowing, there's like little bits of dirt and debris just blown in across on the paper. So I'm going to start on the F line. So we're going to come down from F, and you can see we've got to 7. So F7, here we've got the strap that's on Taylor's dress, and this strap curves over, and then it starts to come down, and we're going to come through 2 squares, and this is a bit like a dot to dot. It's just kind of interesting how using the grids make things really simple. So we're going to keep coming down, and we need to come down to below the 11 line. Just making sure. So yeah, it's the 11 line. Now I'm just drawing a line down first, and then going up to 9, we just want, we can see we've got a long thin rectangle, and then if we come across, you can see it's about halfway. We've got a diagonal line, but we're coming over through the E vertical. And then here now, you can see as this comes up, we have a triangle shape going up, back up to the line, but we don't want it to go dark line above halfway. So I've just got a little light line, and that makes a triangle there. So there's a shape for us. So again, as the back of a dress comes over to H, there we've got a little triangle, and then we can come all the way out past the I line, which is above the 13, and then we can come right the way down. That's just past the edge, and then this comes down to halfway between the H and the I. Now again, just to the left of the H, we have got a rectangle going up, and it goes above the 9 line. And this is the centre of Taylor's back. So there you can see we've got a rectangle shape, pretty much. But the shadow on the back of her shoulder blade, here we've got a V shape. Now we've not finished off the rectangle that's there, but instead we're going to use this V. So from the H on the 10, we need to bring that V up, and then we've got an inverted V that's going to come down through the I, just past the quarter, And then again, we can see we've got this kind of little rectangle shape here. And that's Taylor's back. And then coming out just above the 12, you can see here we've got a triangle shape created by Taylor's right arm. Now we need to take the line up from the back of his shoulder. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm just starting from the middle, is you can start anywhere. You don't have to start with the face. When you're using grids, you can literally start anywhere. So now we're going to go up to the right shoulder, which is below the 7 on the H line. And then we've got to come over diagonally. And that comes up on the 6 between E and F. And then we start to go up for Taylor's neck. Now again here, and we've got this strong shadow that comes down below the 6. And I can see there we've got a triangle. And that's a very, very solid shape. And we've got the top of his shoulder that curves over. So we've just got a semicircle kind of shape there. Excuse me a second while I just cough away merrily. Now C, coming down, you can see the arm comes down on the C line and it goes through this point on the 9 line. And then on the B line, it comes through below the 11. Just below halfway. And so I'm drawing the arm, and then it comes right to the elbow joint where the skin kind of comes together. Just on the 13, just kind of to the left of the centre between A and B. Now, her arm, we can see curves down, and above the 13 on the D line. But you can see how it's a long tube, it's a long rectangle shape. Again, we've got this kind of V at the bottom, where her elbow comes off the bottom of the page. And then between the 14 and the 11, just below the bottom of the 11, we've got this little C slither next to the A. And that curves out. And then the hand comes up to the 9, the wrist. And we've got like a rectangle shape there. Now, again, that's going to curve out a little bit. And then I'm going to come up, and the thumb is a rectangle that starts on the 7 and goes up above the 6. So I'm just drawing a rectangle there. That's going to be the thumb. The nail's going to go right through the 6 line. And then the edge of a wrist, the edge of a thumb going to a wrist on the palm of a hand. And then here for the finger, we've got another rectangle. And then we can make this, it's a slightly compressed box. So it's thinner at the bottom where it comes down to a hand. And then we want the finger going across the top. That's a little rectangle. Then we've got a little triangle in between the finger, and that's the fingers going behind the back. And then there we have the finger, second finger, then we've got the third finger, another rectangle, and this is just over the C line, below the 7. We want another rectangle that's going up, and then you've got the little finger that's just sticking out, come across horizontally, and then a little rectangle, which would be a tube going down. Now within this square between C to D, we've got Taylor's chin. That's coming across to this triangle. Now, up above the triangle, in the between the E and F, below the 4 line, we've got a little box which is going to contain the bottom part of her ear. And then we've got a triangle inside there, which is the entrance to her ear canal. And a little ellipse, that's going to be the bottom of the earlobe. Now, above, coming diagonally over towards the D and up through the C shape here, and we can see how this is going right the way up, goes up to the 2. That's the darker part of her hair. And so we want a rectangle now, coming back. And then there's a triangle there, which is the highlight. And you can see a little kind of leaf shape. That's again the highlight that's inside there. Now, come out the back of her neck. There's a little triangle there. That's the hair kind of just bunched down at the back underneath the clipped up bum bit. Some kind of clip, a little rectangle there that goes through the F line just below the 4. And then again, I'm drawing just a rectangle shape, and that's the kind of bun at the back of her hair. Now again, it's got a kind of 8 shape inside it, just curving in. So I'm just indicating that quickly. Now, here we've got this fantastic highlight that's between the C and the D. So I'm just drawing a little box there. We've got the diagonal that comes over, horizontal that comes over, and the same. It comes midway between the 2 and the 3, but it comes across through the C towards the B. And then we've got that rectangle at the top. Now we just want this semicircle that goes up over the top of her head. And I'm being very careful with this. And it comes right the way over to the F, curves over, and then curves down. Because I don't want to leave a dark, sharp line just yet. I mean, I will be adding more detailed lines, but we want to have this soft, wispy. There's a triangle for that hair. And again, the hair up at the top, just a semicircle that goes out. Now, just to the left of the B, below the 3 line, here we've got a kind of leaf shape. And this is the hair, just the shape of her hair that's coming down her forehead. Now, her right eye just comes down and then cuts right back through the B4 line just underneath. So here I'm just drawing a little oval for Taylor's right eye. Now a nose is just a triangle. Now we've got 2 kind of triangles. You've got the triangle at the bottom where a nostril is, but you've got the triangle shape going up to the nose. Then we've got just drawing a C shape. That's the eye socket coming down to the nose and the shadow that's created. And then a left eye is just to the right of the C line. Again, we can see how the line comes up diagonally. And it kind of comes just about to the halfway point. So there I'm drawing a little kind of leaf-shapey lips with points at the end. And then we want just a little C curve shape for an eye. And then we've got the crease that goes above the upper eyelid. And then we've got the shape of the shadow and highlight coming down the cheek. So again, we want the C shape of the right eye, and then we can see the upper eyebrow behind that very highlighted bit of hair. Then the hair comes over, and then her right eyebrow, just a little rectangle that crosses over the B line. And then we want a little darker line above. Now the cheek, you can see the eye comes down and then it's literally vertical coming down towards just above the 5 line, where it comes across to then diagonally comes right the way across just above the cross point of the B and the 5 and comes down to a thumb. And then finally we've got the shape of Taylor's lips. Now we've got that semicircle for the lower lip, and we can see right up where the nose is, we've got a little triangle for that little bit between the top of the lip and the lower part of the nose. And then it's a kind of C shape. You can see like the letter C there, but with a curve at the top. That's her upper lips. And then we want another C shape inside, just comes over through the C line. Lots of C's going on here. And then that curves down, so it's like a C on the side. And then we've got her teeth. And then we want this little swirl of hair coming down, C shape there, a C shape there. Now we've got lots of check pattern down in the dress, but I'm going to kind of wing that technical term a little bit later. And the reason being is I'll just show you impressionistically what you can do with that down there. But there, very carefully using the grid, because it's such a light picture, using simple shapes and a bit of kind of dot to dot, we've got a decent outline down now that we can now do a detail, much more detailed drawing next. Now we're coming in still with a 2B pencil, and we're now going to do a much more detailed outline. And so we're going to start with Taylor's right eye. Now it's all going to be very, very soft, but we've got to be very careful. I still need to show you a line, a detailed line appearing that you can see. But if you do this very soft, then you won't have a lot of harsh lines to kind of deal with. So there's going up to the left of the B above the 4, going up into a hair. And we've got the eye curves, and it's about a third into where a nose starts to come across. Now, the nose comes down and then curves around, and we can see the right nostril comes about to the centre between B and C on the 5 line. And then we've got the edge of the nose that curves right over. It just curves a little bit there. Now, if we do this little curved line up above, which is part of the shadow, and then we want a little D shape. Again, I'm not using the sharp point, I want a soft edge. So the sharp bit was started off there, because this has got all soft edges. Now that D shape needs to go about halfway, and then the lower part of the nostril comes down there, and then we've got this curve of the left nostril in that upper part, just curves in that kind of upper part of the underneath part of a nostril. It's just there anyway. So yeah, and then like I say, we've got the curve that comes over. We can see that shadow goes up. I'm just indicating where there's a highlight on the nose, so I'm just tracking that up as well. Then we've got the eyebrow, and then the lower part of a right eye with the eyelashes on, the edge of the iris, and then a pupil right in the corner. Now I'm just filling in the pupil and the iris, and then we've got the darker shadow above, and then the crease above the upper eye. You can see straight away we've got an eye just starting to look out towards us, and that's giving us a good focal point. Now I'm going to bring this cheek down. You can see how it just curves. So I've just done a little curve from underneath the eye, and then a C curve on the cheek as it comes around and then comes down to the right of the B through the 5 line. And again, it just curves inward slightly as it comes down to the thumb. Now, Taylor's left eye on the right of the image as I'm looking at it. Again, keep looking at your reference. We can come right to the C line, and that's where the tear duct is, and we've got a triangle of shade and shadow, and the eye goes up a bit, kind of flat before it starts to curve over to the corner of her eye, which is about on the centre part here between C and D. And again, we can bring a kind of flattened curve for the lower eyelid, and that then goes up to the curve. Then we've got the C shape and a pupil. I'm just filling in some of that tone. So now we've got 2 nice simple lines. Now the thumb, I'm going to come down and we're going to curve the thumb up. So we've got that nice curved shape at the top of a thumb. Then we've got the shape going underneath, Here we've got the knuckle joint, thumb joint. So we come out and it just kind of bulges a little bit and then curves back and comes right on the B7 intersection. Now we want an opposite curve on the other side going up, then that goes right the way up to a thumb. Now we come down and we've got a really nice soft, gentle, slightly curving slope with this highlight that's then going to come down, and the highlight comes inside the wrist. Again, I'm just doing these lines nice and soft, trying to keep the pencil soft but not too flat. Now the edge of the wrist we want to curve up, and that's where the highlight's going to be, and it curves off to the distant part of a palm. And here we've got this nice simple curved shape coming round. Then if we come up to the top finger, we can curve that over to the joint in the finger, then curve that down. We've got this little point right on the 7 line to the right of the B, and it comes on, and that's the knuckle. Then we've got the flat of the thumb coming around the palm towards the finger. Then we've got a little triangle line going up, and this is the kind of nice fleshy bit underneath your finger. Then we've got the crease where the joint is there. We're just following the construction lines. So again, you can see these lines are quite dark, but I'm not doing sharp. I'm using the flat point because I want a nice soft image at the end. And again, the second finger that goes behind the thumb. The curve comes across very close to where the chin's going to be. And then that comes down to the right of the C on the 7, and then curves round underneath. Again, there's just a little shape there for the nail. Again, you just curve above and over the 7 line through the C, and then just go up a little bit and curve it back over. Then you've got the underneath of the finger going off into shadow. Then you've got the third finger right underneath that, just about level with the second finger. Then the tip curves underneath, comes through the C line, goes up, and then you've got this kind of V that comes down. And then the little finger juts out a little bit more, curves around through the C line. You've got the crease, and then you can follow the path across, and then you've got the second crease, and then that goes back and joins the hand. Now, from the knuckle, we've got the top of the hand that comes down towards the 9 line. Then we just kink that little bit where the edge of a wrist bone joins. Is it metatarsals, metacarpals, metatarsals, I think. Anyway, all the multiple joints in your wrist. And then the wrist comes down just below the 11 on the A. And then we've got this lovely curve that comes all the way down to the bottom. And that's the elbow curving off. Now, the arm, we're going to go up through the B line, and then there's a little bit of a curve for the muscle on her upper left arm, and it curves back round and goes right through the C9, sorry, This is the C9 point here, right on the part where it curves up to the shoulder. Again, even though you can see a darker line, I'm keeping the pencil flat so that it's not a sharp point. So again, now coming down right to the bottom on the C. And we come up the page. And we need to just cross through the D13. And we follow the line all the way up the E11. And it comes through the 10. About a quarter, just past a quarter. And then it just curves over where the back of the arm touches where a shoulder blade kind of starts to go around. Now you can see already we've got a really nice outline starting to appear. Now we come down from the chin to the chin from the cheek, and this lovely little curved shape just above the fingers comes across just past the halfway line, and then we can bring the neck over to join the arm. Now I'm just going to indicate where that shadow is. We've got a crease on the neck. Where we've got this triangle, we've got a crease that goes through the E6. So we've got a little thin crease there, one going above it, and then we've got a darker one that starts just to the right of the E line, comes up, and then goes over. And then we've got another crease, comes off the shoulder and goes up and joins the F. And then here we've got, and I'm doing this quite lightly, this strong shadow that comes down. Then we've got like a little bird shape, and then a kind of X shape caused by a hair. So now I'm going to track down from a neck, comes down to the right of the F through the 6, then just slightly curve it as it comes through the G line, and as it comes to the 7 it then needs to just kick out a little bit towards the H, and then the top of his shoulder then brings this down and across right through the I9 to below the number 10 line. And then we've got the back that comes down, and then just to the edge a little bit of the strap, and then her arm that goes off the bottom of the page, and then a dress. Goes right down to the bottom, and then here you can see up to the H on the 12 the dress comes up and then goes through and just starts to curve over a little bit, and then curves up to going up underneath the left arm. Now the strap that goes up over the top, got a little curve, a little C shape, and then this comes down, joins on the dress, got the top of the strap, and then the bit round the back that then comes underneath the top, and then the strap going up into the bright light curves all the way up and joins the E line, and then we bring that line down to join in the little knot at the top of the strap, and then we want to bring the outer edge down as well. Now, right on the 8, between the G and the H, just drawing a little oval, but very lightly, because of that dimple in the centre of that left shoulder blade. Now we come back up to Taylor's head, and we're going to do her mouth. So from the thumb, we can follow the lower lip, and that comes up to the corner, and it's about on the 3rd, so that just curves. Then we want a little curve as it crosses over on the C, and then the thumb is just pulling the lip down a little bit, so this part on the left hand side is a little bit higher, and you can see there's a little bit more dark here underneath the tooth. Then we want the lip going up, curving over. Then we've got the little V centre point, and then the lip trajectory comes down to before the corner of a mouth here, and I'm just putting a nice soft shade for the very corner of a mouth. And then we've got the lower part of a lip, her upper lip, that comes up from the corner of a mouth, and then that goes down to frame the teeth. And then the centre point of teeth. I'm just, like I did the eyes, I'm just filling in that little bit of shade in that corner. Now we come up to Taylor's left ear. We've got the lower earlobe, and then we've got this triangle shape for the entry to her ear canal. Just follow that curve up into the hair. And then we've got this highlight between the E and the F. It's a bit like a reverse J, that was. And then the bun at the back, where her hair's pulled together. And then that curves out. The highlight goes past the G line. Again, there's just some wispy lines. We've got a little dark line that goes up there, and then these highlighted parts of her hair going right the way up over the top, over past the D, and then here we've got this triangle of darker shape. Now again, I'm just indicating in the direction that the hair's going, where I need the highlights to stay. Little kind of leaf shape, and another highlight there. Going to go up and over. And then we've got here, we've got highlighted bits, so I'm just drawing a kind of egg shape where that highlight's going to go. And then the shadow coming over the curve of a nose, and then that shadow going right up into a hair. Again, underneath jaw, edge of a chin. And then we've got very, very soft, this strong highlight on the left shoulder. So now coming back to this hair, we've got this strong highlight that comes over. And the one above between the 2 and the 3 line. Little highlight that goes right through the 3 line. So I've got a little square there. Bright, strong highlight. And the line that goes above. And then the hair that comes down off the side, the curve that comes around, and then all these wispy bits of hair that are off into the background. And that's our complete outline down, pretty much. Oh, nearly. It's nearly a complete outline. Got a little set of lines in the bun here, and then the hair at the back, some wispy bits. Oh, nearly missed that. That was good that I spotted those. Now, not only that, like I say, we've got all of these lines that are coming down, but I'm just going to wing this. I'm just going to lightly indicate the direction of a few of the lines. Again, this is that kind of crepe elastic at the back, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in between each square. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that'll give us, down here we've got where the fabric joins. That'll just give me a bit of an idea where we can put the lines in. But that is our outline down of Taylor. So back in now with the 2B pencil, and we are going to put in tone all over the image. And we are obviously going to, the highlights are up here on the top of a hair and then down on a back and the top of the shoulder. And that's going to be the bare paper. So even this bit in the background over here, it's very, very light and wispy. But, you know, we've got a highlight down here by the side of her arm. And so I'm just going to use the side of a 2B pencil. And we're going to fill in the shapes quickly, but just with one tone primarily, because we'll then build everything up afterwards. Now, I've just filled in that little bit. Of that one particular shape. And here from this little circle, there's a kind of diamond before we get the slightly darker tone. So I'm doing a mid-tone and a very light tone, really. So here again now, I'm filling the tone in all the way down the back. There's a highlight on that strap. And then we've got all the way down her arm. And you'll get used to filling in larger areas like this. Just got some spent bits of rubber, just brush them off so that I don't ingrain dirt in. and just practice. Draw some shapes, draw some rectangles, triangles, circles, and then just get a pencil like this and fill them in. And just practice. Like I say, I'm pivoting from my shoulder, my hand's not resting on the paper. And if you actually practice, you'll find that you can... I'm just finding bits of spent rubber, and that'll make a dirty black mark in your drawing. Now again, that's all the way down the arm, and the more practice you do, so now I'm just going to go up the wrist. I've got the highlight on the inside, so I'm just going to be careful not to go over that. Come all the way up the fingers and the hand. And then we can just fill in the dress. And that's just literally filling in a large area very, very quickly. And we're just putting a simple little layer of tone down. And then we can build up on top of it with more and more detail. So because there's no strong highlights on a face, we can go all the way up across the face, just going straight over the top of the eyes, rather than doing it in sections. Over the ear, then into the hair, behind the ear in this bun, and then on the front. Again, I'm pressing on a little bit darker where the hair is over the forehead, just because it's that little bit darker in tone. Again, coming over to the curve where that strong highlight is. Now, what I'm going to do is very lightly, I'm not going right to the edge of the paper. I'm going to fill in the background lightly now. And again, I'm literally just pivoting the pencil in my fingers quite freely. And the reason I'm doing this is because all of the image is slightly grey, and just having that little bit of tone is going to help. Again, I'm just dusting off some little bits of eraser that are picking up some of the pencil. Again, I did this on Lunar Love God, but we did it quite late on. But because this is so soft an image, kind of need to do it. Again, I'm just finding I'm picking up little bits of spent eraser. But by filling in the paper now, it means I actually get, I mean, one, I've got to be careful because I don't want to keep smudging everything. But it means that the tones will work together and the highlights will stand out. Now, again, I've just filled in all of that paper very, very quickly. And this is just something that I do. I'm going to get my piece of kitchen roll, use tissue, and I'm just going to smooth all of these lines down, but I'm being careful. Going next to tail it as carefully as I can. Now again, there's more tone in and around this. Yeah, the out of focus background. Again, I'm now pushing this tone around Taylor's body. And this is just a nice simple mid-tone that we can build on because the highlights are up here. So wherever we put a highlight, we know it's going to stand out. So we can go right up onto the head and the face. And up into the hair. Now you can just do cross-hatching if you want, but I just like doing, again, this is kind of photorealism, but very quick. Now again, you would have to spend hours on one part. And so it's just something that I do, and you can see it build up the areas quite quickly. Now again, I'm coming in with a 4B pencil because it's very soft. And I'm just looking where these kind of fuzzy, out of focus background bits are. It's called bokeh, the camera, out of focus camera effect. So I'm using the soft flat of the pencil just to create some of these bokeh-y tones. Again, if you want to mimic these perfectly, then you've got to spend ages doing them all. Again, coming up to the hair, next to the face. Got this kind of highlighted area here, and when we pull out the hair using the putty rubber, that'll be absolutely fantastic. Again, I'm using the 4B pencil because it's softer. And it's going down in a much softer way than the 2B pencil does. Again, you can do it with an 8B, it'd be even softer still. But 8B, you can get blacker, darker tones much quicker. And this is just something that I'm just trying to be quick, showing you little techniques. So again, just these tree lines and branches. very lightly pressing on. Again, this kind of tree shape in the background. I'm doing the wider shape first, just wiggling it about and coming up to where her neck is, around that bun where the highlight is at the back. And I'm just literally wiggling it around a little bit just to get those kind of little darker shapes inside. And coming down the back of her right shoulder. And then coming down to the bottom. And again by the left arm. And there already, you can see we're just getting a slightly set of darker tones that are going to help frame Taylor and bring out all the shapes that we need on her. So again, that's all just cross hatching. I'm going to come back in with a kitchen roll. I'm just being careful and but quick. And just blending those slightly darker tones. You can see there, that's just completely softened it out. Where that comes over, then this branch into the lighter part. And just push some tone around these kind of little wispy tree shape. And then just that tone going up and off. Behind the back, and then we've got this little bit in this little triangle inside her arm and underneath the chin. Now, if I come in with the putty rubber and just crisp up the very strong highlights, you can see straight away we've got that really nice crisp edge. And then on the strap, I'm just dabbing on the inside of the hand next to the face. Now here I'm just pulling some of the hairs up quickly, and you can see straight away we've got that lovely wispy set of highlights on her hairs just dancing around behind her head. Again, the same on the back of this bun, that it's pulled together on the top. And then some of the highlights right the way up to the top. And then this strong highlight coming right over the front. And just some of the hairs, again, just indicating quickly. All of these fantastic wispy hairlines. And again, you could use, like I say, I've got this Tombow, not had a go of it yet. Yeah, that does wispy hairs quite nice. And you don't have to keep pinching it together. Coming down the side of the face. Yeah, that's rather an interesting little tool. That'll come in handy. Again, just highlights of the hair. So that already is looking rather lovely. So that's the first kind of layer of tone down, and then we're going to build up more and just start accentuating some of the details and the darker tones. But it's a very soft image, so again, we've got to work very carefully, just filling the tones in, and then all of a sudden it'll look like the image will come together. But anyway, we'll just carry on adding more tone next. So now we're going to come in with a 4B pencil and we're going to start shading up all around Taylor's eyes. And I'm going to darken. So again, this is the 4B pencil. Have I got a... So I was just looking, I've got one in a pencil extender that we will use as well. As this looks very, very new, because it is, it's a brand new pencil. But again, we've got this fantastic soft edge. So I'm not putting down, and you'll see this work. This is, in a way, this is almost like the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci's The Mona Lisa. There's no hard, crisp edge. So we've got just some eyelashes coming off, but it's just a nice dark tone all around the edge of her eye, and going up to the tear duct in the corner, and then her iris and the pupil. And then you've got the iris around the pupil. It's just a little bit lighter. Again, we've got a little bit of shadow underneath the upper eyelid. And then curving down. And already you can see we've got that eye starting to look out at us. So very lightly filling in the eyeball, darker above the top. Now this, we could use probably probably end up using the paintbrush as well later on to soften, or just use the pencil, just literally build up the tone. So here we have the crease above her upper eyelid, and the crease on the corner going off, and it's going up right up to this bright hair that's coming across. But we've got the shape that's coming down. Now the reason I'm using the 4B pencil and not the 2B is because it's softer. So again, just like the line above her eye, I'm doing the same going underneath. And you can see there's that kind of crease line that follows the lower eyelid. And now I'm going to use the complete flat of the pencil, nice and soft. I'm going to quickly fill in the shape of her left eye socket. And because there's no highlights on the eye, it doesn't matter if you kind of just run over it a little bit. Because it's all going to work in the tone. So here you can see we're coming down the side of a nose. There's that little bit of shadow that goes up and above the nose. And in a sense we're kind of cross-hatching, but with the flat of the pencil. We need that soft going off to the corner, and then we come down underneath the eye. And this is the beauty of using the tonal quality of a softer pencil as well. So there you can see straight away we've got real lovely shape and form starting to appear. Little bit of darker shape, the eyebrow coming out underneath that highlighted part, above the highlight. We've got that darker shape caused by the hair coming over, going to that little kind of rectangle. There's a little V shape in it. But we can just bring that slightly darker tone all the way over. And then we've got the tone above, and a little V shape right above the nose there. Now, slightly lighter coming down the nose. I'm going to put the dark in on her eyebrow. Then we've got some darker tone here. Got the edge of her head that's going up underneath that hair to the eyebrow. And we've got some darker tone just coming over the front of her forehead a little bit to where it comes down to the nose. Now I'm going to come in carefully and we're going to do the same on Taylor's right eye as we did on the left. So the underneath of her eyelid their eyelashes. We've got a wider just curve that comes back on itself slightly into the eye, edge of the eye and the eye socket. And then we have the lower eyelid. Again, I'm using the tip of the pencil but very softly. And then we've got the iris right in the corner, nice and soft but dark, and then the pupil right in by the nose. And that's helping to create that dark line that's framing the nose. And we can darken the iris. And then the crease of her upper eyelid comes over, and then we can see we've got that curve of a nose going up into the eye socket itself, and then dark going above the upper eyelid coming over, and then just slightly lighter from the edge. But obviously we want the darkest part of her head next to the highlight in the background. And there you can see straight away we're starting to get really good, nice form appearing. Now again, her eyelash comes out a bit. The same on the bottom one. Again, I'm just doing it very soft and slightly blurred. And then we need to darken the pupil down, and then underneath her lower eyelid we've got that slightly darker tone. And there you can see we've got two really lovely eyes starting to stare out of the page at us. And again, just very carefully increasing the tone. As I always say, it's much easier to add tone than to take it away. And this is what you're doing. You're doing a tonal exercise with no real hard edges to build up this drawing of Taylor. So now we're going to come down by the side of a lip. We've got the edge going up to where her right nostril is underneath. Just building the tone. Then we want to go around the front of her nose and up the cheek to the dark underneath the eye. And if you kind of squint, you'll see that this is pretty much a silhouette, but it's not obviously jet black. It's a tonal kind of silhouette. We want the dark underneath the cheek and a little bit of a highlight here as the cheek goes around the corner. Then we can just intensify the edge of a cheek. That's already looking really lovely. Now, the triangle in between the centre part of her upper lip, right above the upper lip, going up to the nose. Got a little dark triangle. There we've got the right nostril. Then we've got the left nostril. We've got this little curve that comes over. And then a bit more black at the back. And Then we just need to really soften that off. Again, we're going to bring the tone down a nose, and we've got the highlight on the top of a nose. So we're just trying to leave that going all the way around. Again, just increasing the dark underneath the eye right next to the nose. Then we've got the little dark line right on the top, on the front of a nose, that then comes down to curve underneath. So now we're going to bring that tone all across from the lip up to underneath the left nostril, and then the curve over the top coming down to the edge of the left nostril where it joins the cheek. Then we've got a slightly lighter bit, and here there's a bit like a love heart shape of lighter tone. So I'm just doing the dark around the outside. You can see there we've got that little love heart shape. And fill that little bit of tone in. And then take that tone up the front of the nose, and then curving up her forehead. That's actually really lovely. So now I'm using the complete flat of the pencil. I can see the end is really starting to go down, but that's good. And so what I want to do is quickly put in more of the dark around Taylor's face, but we've got this area of light here and this area of light here on a cheek, then coming down underneath the nose. So just filling in little bits. That's the entrance to the ear canal, that little shape, so I'm doing that a little bit darker. And the edge of the ear, how that curves under. Then we've got this light bit here on this tone coming across and then coming up. And it just darkens as we come over. So just using the 4B pencil, but very lightly. And increasing carefully where we need, just indicate, like so there underneath the ear. Got a little bit of shadow coming down. And then going down underneath the neck. Coming across the chin. Around by the thumb. Now we've got a couple of little reflected highlights underneath, so I'm just filling the tone in a little bit. And then as we add more dark, the highlights will show up. But you can see how we're just adding tone and building up the form and structure of Taylor's face. So now we're coming up all over a cheek, leaving that little highlighted bit. Little highlight bit there, little highlight bit there. Now, coming down by the side of a nose and the cheek where there's a darker passage. It's a bit like an X. We just need to increase that tone a little bit. And then coming down underneath the lips, the lower lip, shadow caused by a thumb on a chin. Then we come over to the creases that come right to his shoulder. There's a nice patch of shadow there, right going down to the shoulder. And then the bottom part of a jaw going to a chin. We've got that darker line that comes across, and then you can see we've got that diagonal that goes up, and you see they've got that little highlight there on the edge of a chin, and then underneath a lip. And then a cheek comes out and comes down. And then here we have going up the cheek to her ear. And her eye going up underneath the hair. Already you can see we've got this lovely shape and form really starting to appear. So now we want the dark inner mouth from the corner of her mouth. Going over above her teeth. Again, I'm just using the tip of the pencil, but very soft. So I'm not putting sharp lines down that are going to be hard to soften off. And again, I'm drawing as quickly as I would normally. Then we've got the edge of her lips coming up. And her upper lip. But just not putting hard, solid lines down. So now the darker tone, the shadow of her lips, just making it darker than the cheek. Again, just keep going backwards and forwards, just increasing the amount of tone a little bit. So again, coming up the edge, coming round, and then filling in the inner part of the lip. And that's really lovely. Now again, I'm going to come in, I'm going to use the used putty rubber, because it won't pull off as much pencil. So I'm getting a bit of a highlight on the top, the side of a lip, the V right on the top, and then down the edge of her outer lip, going over onto a cheek, and then dabbing inside the lip very, very carefully, kind of a reflected highlight. But there you've got that darker tone, but now you've got that reflected highlight inside the lip as well. Now, same on the lower lip. The tone is very similar to the shadow all around the chin. And there's a highlight here. So, drawing around the top of the thumb, and then just filling the lips in, and then darkening right in the corners where we need, and then underneath. Then we've got a kind of shadow that comes up and over, just to the right of her teeth. Right to the, yeah, it's like on the right hand side of her face, where we've got this highlight right on the edge of her lip. And then, again, just increasing the tone a little bit inside the lips. And the teeth, just again filling the tone in, darker in the corner, just coming across. And there's Taylor really starting to look out at us, and we're just building up these tones slowly and letting the shading do all the work for us. Carrying on with the 4B pencil, we're now going to fill a lot of the tone in around the rest of her body, and we're going to start with a hand. Now I'm going for this kind of new mid-tone because it's relatively darker. Now we've got a highlight between the first finger and thumb, so we just need to be a little bit careful while we're filling this area in. Again, I'm just using the soft flat side of the 4B pencil, and we're just filling all of this hand in. So coming down the edge of the hand, the thumb, the fingers, and it's just a case of being careful, but we need to fill it in as quickly as possible. So again, the fingers behind the thumb. This is where, as I said, it's a silhouette. This is going to work for us quite well, because we're looking up here where the dark is, and you can see already that the face is lifted out. And so as long as you're consistent with your tone, it's all going to work for you very, very well. So now coming down, we've got little bits of shade in the hand. We've got this highlight. coming down the arm. Now I'm going to darken the line where the crease is between the forearm and the upper arm. Again, using the soft part of the pencil. And the same at the back of the arm, where it joins on the back. Now I'm just coming down with the tone all the way down the forearm, right the way down. Now it lightens up as it comes around here, and so we need to be careful because we want the tone to change as it goes around. Taylor's arm. Now, again, I'm just being very careful. I've just noticed some little bits of spent eraser again. And so I'm bringing this column, and there is a reflected highlight, but I'm bringing this column of tone down first, all the way down her arm, and then we need to be careful to not do things like that. Now, here as we come down, we're going to have more tone, like this curve of her arm brings a slightly darker shadow down. Now, I'm still using the flat of the pencil, but trying not to bounce it on the page. I am bringing a lighter tone down and across. And then coming down her arm. So as we've got the tone changing as it goes around the cylindrical shape of her arm. Now again, underneath her arm here, we've got a shadow as well. And then again now on her back, where we already put the tone down first, so here right in the spine, we've got a little darker amount of tone. Again, underneath the right shoulder blade. And you can feel underneath the pencil because you're going so light when you find like a bit of grit or a bit of rubber. Just going to sharpen the pencil. Because the flat bits were getting so flat that it was starting to get too scratchy. See, now I've got consistent soft tone again, because I was fighting against the edges of a flattened pencil. So now coming up Taylor's back, and again you can just do this with cross hatching if you want. You don't have to blend it as I will in a bit. But you can see already we're getting extra tonal value. Again, her right arm needs to be darker next to the dress, and then a dress underneath her arm needs to be a little bit darker. We've got the shadow caused by the arm. That's just going to completely soften out. And then again, just building some tone up in the dress, just so as the values are the same. Tone in the strap, and that edge, how that goes up. Now again, we still need to build it down. That hand is very similar to the shadow next to it, and so there's no form there at the moment. If I come in again with, I'm going to use a clean part of the kitchen towel, and I just push the pencil around, you can see straight away we've got a much nicer, and that's actually getting darker the more you press on. Because you're picking the pencil up and just pushing it around a little bit. So again, going up to the highlight on the shoulder. Now again, right on the central part, I'm literally just going up and down and forcing the pencil to blend. Now I'm just circling a little bit. And you can see now we've got that lovely soft tone going down the arm. Again, right next to the edge. Again, I'm going over the line, so as we're softening everything. And then I can bring the tone down the arm, and we've got that lovely highlight down the back of her arm created by the pencil tone. And again, we'll just build it up more as we go around. So now all on the dress, just pushing that around. Now you see that's getting quite dirty. Now on her arm, I'm going to bring the tone down and fill this area in. Now I'm going to use a clean bit again. Now I'm going right up to the edge, but just being very careful. Now I'm going up her wrist, going up towards her hand, over where the fingers are, the thumb. And just by pushing the pencil around like this, because it's soft edged, you're just creating a really lovely ambient effect. It's just all soft and hazy. Now again, over on the neck. And because it's so wide and soft, using the kitchen towel is actually doing you a favour. Again, I'm being very careful around the nose and the eyes. But just pushing that tone around. And that's really looking very lovely. And you can see, you know, if I put the pencil next to it, you can see how it's kind of evaporating into the mist in a sense. But we just need to build up the tones a little bit more. Now I'm going to come in with the clean putty rubber, because I want this as sharp as possible. That's looking rather lovely. That's really looking lovely. And again, we just need to continue to build slowly and carefully. Again, pulling up the top of the shoulder, and then a strap on the back of a dress. So now I'm going to come in, I'm going to darken up the chin. Around the lips and around the thumb. But again, where I would press on really hard and get the sharp point, I'm not doing that because I want this soft edge. Again, you can see I'm just darkening in around the teeth. And that gives fantastic definition. So again, because we just softened everything off using the kitchen towel, I now come in and redarken around Taylor's, the bits in the centres in Taylor's lips and around her eyes. It all gets much sharper, but it's using soft edges. Again, that's the upper eyelid and eyelashes on Taylor's right eye. Then the corner of a tear duct. Again, that eye just needs darkening down. The eyeball does. And the eyelashes on lower eyelid. That's absolutely fantastic. So now we need to build up the darker tones in this hand. Top of the finger goes really close to a chin. That's the edge of a chin. Edge of the thumb, causing a shadow onto the chin. Now this tone, again, coming down off a cheek. You See that just giving us a little bit more three-dimensional form on the end of a chin. So now this second finger behind the thumb, there's a little reflected highlight underneath, but it's darker than on top of the third finger. Shadow caused by the second finger going over the third. Soft shadow from a chin on the top of the second finger. Again, the third finger, same thing, shadow on top of the fourth. Got this curved shape going over. The finger going up, then going behind the first finger, a little bit of highlighted area on the nail. And then that reflected highlight underneath. So we just need to leave that showing through. And again, I'm just using the softening point end of the pencil rather than keep twisting it to make it sharp. Then you've got the edge of the thumb and then the little finger with the highlight. There's the crease and the second crease. And then we can just fill the tone in down to the edge of the finger. And the top of the finger. Then we've got inside the hand. A little bit of shade, a little corner part there. The first finger, crease there, little bit of a crease there. And going up, shadow right next to the thumb. Slightly darker underneath. And then darker tone on the outside with this little highlighted bit in the centre. But just cross hatch over it all just to blend it in. Then we've got coming off the thumb, a bit of a crease line, but it's very soft. Thumb knuckle. Now going round to the knuckle on the corner of a hand. You can see here now I'm just using the soft of the pencil, coming down, increasing the tone just on the edge. Now we've got a V shape here of shadow. So I'm using the flat of the pencil and just filling that in really quick. And then we carry that tone on up the thumb to the joint, do some lines across, then we go up to the nail. Fill the tone on the nail a little bit and just come back onto the thumb. A little bit of tone down the outside, leaving this reflected highlight down the edge of the palm. And then it gets darker coming down to where this highlight is. Just got this nice flowing shape. goes up, and you can see where you've got the curve of the thumb. The shape brings you that tone around. Again, just increasing it little by little, coming around the knuckle. There you can see the hand really starting to get more definition. Now coming down to where the forearm meets the upper arm. Got this area of shade. Kind of goes up into a triangle. Just allows this little patch of light in between coming up to this tone here. And the same coming down the arm, but not right next to it. It's a dark line on the curve, so you've got a reflected highlight on the outer, coming to the darker tone that comes down to the elbow. Again, I'm going really quick. You can go slower. Just coming up this arm now a little bit. The tone coming up. Again, the centre of the arm. We can darken that down a little bit. Got a little bit of a highlight here. This is where you get just some good tonal values, and that's what's giving you the shape and form of the arm, the wrist and the hand. So now here we need darker. Just coming up onto the top of the arm and curving right, and you can see we've got the shape of the muscle on the top of the shoulder coming down her arm. And we can fill that in quickly. That's giving us a really lovely shape of tone for her arm. Again, bottom of the arm, a little bit of tone coming around, and then the back of the arm where it joins the top of her upper arm and above the dress. It's just about building up the tone together. Now I'm going to come in and use the brush because it's easier to push the pencil around, whereas using the kitchen towel, that actually pulls pencil off. Using a brush, you're literally pushing the pencil around still, but you've got a lot more control over it. And you can actually soften it. It's like using makeup. So here I'm literally just pushing the pencil around with a paintbrush and creating tonal areas that I want, and it's softening it but not pulling off too much of the pencil. You can see there I'm getting more tone over the jawline and the neck, but I've still got that reflected highlight. And that's really lovely. Now I've just sharpened the 4B pencil again, and so that I don't have the flatter part, we're now going to bring the tones together on the rest of her arm going across her back. And by not having the really flat parts, just means I get a nice softer effect quicker. So here next to the strap we've got the shadow, and again just nice and soft, following the shape, the direction up of the arm, the strap up her back, going up to over the top of her shoulder. So now we're coming down, filling in. And we got this reflected highlight down here, but we just filled in the bit of a back going underneath her arm. And then we're going to come down and just fill in more of the tone, coming right the way down her arm. We're just trying to leave as much of that reflected highlight as we can. And then we can build up the tonal qualities of the shadow coming around the shoulder there, and then coming down the upper part of her arm to where the fold is at her elbow. Again, it's just a case of building your darker tones up slowly, because if you go in too quickly and put too much on, it'll be a bit of a disaster, and that's not what we want. So again, where a spine is, a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker on where a right shoulder blade is. Again, I'm just lightly just doing cross hatching as lightly as I can, and this is with a 4B pencil. Now you can use lighter grades, you can use 2H, but I'm trying to do these videos for you guys as quick as you can. You get into using multiple grades of pencil, absolutely fantastic, but you will be spending many more hours doing the bits that you need to do, and that's fantastic. But I'm trying to give you the techniques as quick as I can. Again, coming down her arm, there is a little shadow tone in the reflected highlight, and then we've got a shadow actually underneath the arm into the dress. And that's really starting to look good for us. Again, coming up the arm, forearm, coming up to the hand and the thumb. Just enjoying building it, and this is a complete tonal exercise. And it's just a way of learning good pencil control. So now, right up on a thumb. Just giving some definition on the thumbnail. And the shadow coming down the side of the thumb, little bit of a reflected highlight right on the edge. And then underneath that second finger. And now I'm going to come in with, he says, I was going to come in with the blending stump. Got it, I'd knocked it off the desk. Again, I'm now pushing these tones around Taylor's arm as if I was using the pencil. But by using the blending stump, you're able to direct the tone. Using the blending stump as if it's a pencil, you're able to direct the tone exactly as you want it. And you can go up to the edge, increase the definition of the edge. That bit right up to the knuckle. And coming down to the bottom of the thumb. And then we want this tone going up the arm. And the edge of her arm. Going up to the shoulder, underneath the chin. Again, this is all with a soft edge. So there's no kind of mega defining line or sharp lines. We're just using the tones created by the pencil. Underneath her arm. Now, I'm going to come in, I'm going to try, oh, hang on, before I do that, I'll use a cotton bud in a second. Now, I used the cotton bud on Ariana Grande. Again, it's just another simple thing that you've got access to, probably in your bathroom. And that's really good. Again, this will just soften the tone that little bit. Whereas the blending stump just pushes it around. You can actually just soften the tone quite nicely using the cotton bud, like you do with the brush. So I'm going to use the clean side. Just to push that down in the direction that I want it to. Again, coming across the back. And then from the centre of the spine. That tone going up. And the back of her arm, where you've got that highlight. Now I'm going to come in with a kitchen towel. Because this actually, not only does it smooth it out, but it also pulls some of the tone off. That little bit. But it also softens it. Again, just coming in using a clean part, because that'll pull off pencil. And actually soften the tones down for us a little bit. Then we can just push some of the tone around on the dress. That's looking rather lovely. So again, now I'm coming in with the used putty rubber. We can just dab in some of the highlights. On that wrist. So that's pulling that up. Hairs above. Highlight around the hand. You can see that just starts to frame up the image for us of her arm just by using the putty rubber. Just to crisp up some of the edges. It just gives us that little bit extra definition that we need. So again, if you come in now with the cotton bud, just soften those edges. You got some more of the swirly highlights, but that's starting to look very, very good. So now if you just come back in with the 4B, and gently increase the darkness in the crease between a lower arm and upper arm. And then these slightly darker shadows down the inside of a hand. That's giving us the form and darkness that we want. Now I've just noticed, so we put those highlights down the arm, we need a couple reflected highlights and some bits on the thumb. That's looking absolutely lovely. Again, the same, just softening those down a little bit. Darkening these little bits on a palm. Just gives it that little bit more three-dimensionality. But we want that soft transition. You can see we've now got that really nice soft curve going around Taylor's arm. Now coming down the shoulder. Just the curve. And now we need to really build up, like we've got down here, we need to build the tone up now around Taylor's face. So I'm squinting, I'm using the 4B pencil. In fact, I'm going to sharpen it. And we're taking tone over. To the shoulder of her chin. Got the curve that comes around. And then the edge of a chin. So we've got these reflected highlights right at the base of a chin and underneath the neck. But then we've got to build up all of the shadow now on her face. So we're just increasing the nostrils to kind of match this area around her hand. And this will give us the tonal definition and three-dimensionality that we're after, but it's just got to be soft. So again, I'm now filling in the shape around her eye socket, and then you've got the lower eyelid, and then you've got a kind of even lower one that comes down, kind of U shape that comes around and then goes up to that corner. Then coming off the nose, then coming up to here, we've got that dark. Like I say, we've got that X shape that then comes over to the cheek and then comes down. And we can just fill that little bit in between, again leaving that kind of little highlight above the left hand part of the lip. You've got the round of a nose, and just increasing little bits underneath the nostril. That passage that goes up the side of her face. Darken the corner of her right eye. Underneath, a little bit coming off her right hand cheek. This is the thing, you just keep looking at the reference and you can just add little bits at a time. And this is how you just build the tone up. Again, coming up forehead. And this is where next we'll be doing some work on her hair. If we come over to her ear, got the entrance to her ear canal. So that needs to be darker. And then the tones coming around earlobe. And again, we've got some really nice dark areas around here. Tone coming down her earlobe, then down onto her neck. Creases in her neck with tones. I see you got tone above, you got like this little patch of darker shade, and then in between those two lines that goes up. And we can just build up, and again you've got this highlight here that's left. And the same. That's looking really, really atmospheric and lovely. Ooh, just trying to get my blending stump. It is actually very dirty, so I'll have to clean it off. And I sharpen mine with a blade. You can't actually sand them as well, but I've never done that. I've only ever sharpened mine using a blade. So again, for these tones, on the back of a neck, we can use the blending stump and actually soften the tones as we come across, and you're getting this uniform amount of softening and definition. So now just coming up the cheek, and just using the blending stump like I would a pencil. pressing on harder where you want it a little bit darker. Around the eye. Right in the corner. Corner of her eye socket, and then that passage going over her nose. And then up the right hand side of her forehead. And again, just softening those tones out. Again, just going up that highlighted bit, just going over it a little bit up the cheek. And that's really looking good. Just sharpening the 4B pencil again. And now we're going to come in and we're going to start darkening up all these parts on Taylor's hair and around her ear. So here up by the ear canal, we've got this little darker passage that's going up the side of her head. And we have these highlights that we need to allow to stay out. And show up. So you've got that hair that comes over there, and I'm kind of drawing this in reverse, and then we've got this dark area coming up to this fantastic highlighted bit. And there's some wispy hairs inside. And then we can take that darker patch up to where there's those bright lines, and then we've got this little shape here. And this is how we're just filling in parts of the shadow on her head. You can see already that's framing her face quite nicely. And then we've got the shadow into the hair coming up over the top of her head. Just this is very light, so I'm just very gently indicating some tone with the flat side of the pencil. And then the dark coming down the back of the hair to the bun. And this is quite a complex set of techniques that you're developing on this, because you basically drawing, reversing out. Now you can use paint. You can get a paint pen for the highlights. You can use, as I said, I've used gouache before. But we'll see how we go just using the rubbers. This is like when we did Luna Lovegood. She got a mass of blonde hair. Again, just coming down the neck here, underneath the ear. And these highlights, that are coming underneath the ear. Highlights, there's a highlight in there in the dark behind that ear. And then we've got, again, these shadow lines, these shades and the tones. I'm drawing them in the direction that the hair's kind of bunched up. And it is just bunched up. And here we've got dark tone coming down the back. And there already you can see that's really framing Taylor's face for us, which is actually really lovely. And then as we come up the side, we've got some slightly darker tones and mid-tones. And then as the hair, you can see we've got hair that comes across, and then we've got a lighter patch here. Again, doing this softly means we can come back in with an eraser and really pick out the highlights. So here we've got lighter tones for the hair, and the top of the head coming down, some lighter tones in amongst the wispy bits going off the side at the top. And then here we've got much darker tones creating the shapes that we want in and around the highlighted hairs. But again, I'm using the flat of the pencil to create and build all of this up. And here we've got these hairs coming down by a right eye. And you can see already that's starting to develop the drawing for us and make it look a lot more complete. And again, I'm using the soft part of the pencil, just indicating more lines. And here we want more of the dark coming up. And I don't know if you can hear that, but we've got a chainsaw kicking off in the background. So just hang on a second. Just closed my window, so it'll reduce the noise as much as possible. I say, fortunately, sometimes we have lots and lots of noise around us because neighbours are having work done, and at the end of the day it makes noise. So I do my best to, if you did hear that chainsaw kick off, then it's all part of life as we know it now. Extra noise. Anyway, so there you can see we've just pushed a lot of tone around, made it a little bit darker and built it up, and that's giving us the quality that we need in and around the hair. Now, coming in with the clean putty rubber and just pulling up some of the highlights again. Just pinching it and just being quite free, just following the flow of the hair as it needs to go. I'm going to try that new Tombow eraser as well. And that's actually quite good. So again, we got the highlights and wispy bits in the bunch of hair at the back. And then coming over the tone that we just put in and some wispy bits in and amongst that hair there. And then coming down on across the forehead, the hair, the brightness. And that's really lovely. So again, I'm just going to sweep off those little bits of rubbing out. Now I'm going to come in, I've cleaned off the end of my blending stump. And I'm just going to soften the edges of the tones that we've just put in. And we can push the tone around a lot next to the highlights that we've just put in. I'm going to put that in. I've got like a, it's for a dip pen, but it's a good extender. And it means, just my phone's going off. Sorry about that. Put it on silent. I say everything's a little bit bonkers. And I've lost the pencil extender, it's dropped off. Oh, the joys of, so like I say, that just fell off the back. So if I push that in properly, it won't fit in. It just needs a little bit of bracing. I'll do that later. But this means we can push the tone around in the shadows and soften it all off. And just make it nice soft edge. Now you can see already, like Taylor's really her face is really well framed and looking good now, and so we can push this tone around to get close to the highlights, and it's framing up everything that we need. So here, coming off now, we can use the blending stump and we get that nice grey, lighter tone amongst all the wispy highlighted hairs. And again, just drawing with the actual blending stump around the lines of the hair. And that just helps to pick out some of the shapes of the strands of hair as they are going around. So again, the shadow at the back of a head, can just darken that a little bit. You see how it just frames it up. Now, just coming back in with the 4B pencil. Just increasing some tone around these highlighted hair that's coming down off the side of a head. And then we just come back in with the blending stump and we can push that tone around a little bit, going up towards a face. Around the actual hairs. You can see how that it's just lifting up those hairs that little bit. Then we can really soften the tone out towards the hand. And that makes quite a nice little difference. And if we come back in with the putty rubber, and we can just dance in some little wispy highlights. And again, up on the top here we've got a really lovely explosion of lighter hair. You see that's just really illuminated. Just being careful. But that area is now really, really lovely and sharp. Now again, coming back in with the 4B pencil. This area around her eyes and above her forehead is much darker, but it's not jet black. And so we've got her eyebrow that's coming over towards the edge of her head. We've got this hair that comes down. And then we've got this dark patch coming across her forehead underneath this highlighted line of hair, this strand of hair that's just coming across. So I'm really closing down to the line using the pencil. And then coming across above her left eye, just bringing up the intensity of the dark. Now around her right eye. going up to the eyebrow. Leaving that little highlight area, that little triangle there. But again, now just cross-hatching the left eye. Making that dark that little bit more. And you come down just a little bit on the side of the nose. Front of the nose. And this is literally just how I say it's easier to add tone than it is to take it away. So now coming down underneath the left eye, coming over onto the cheek a little bit. And this is absolutely lovely. So again, you can build this up as much as you want. Just keep looking at the reference and deciding how far you want to go. So again there, just darken that nostril up. Taylor's right eye. Shadow in the upper eyelid, crease going over. So now I'm using the flat of the pencil to indicate some of the hairs a little bit more. Just twisting it to have a, using the sharper point but not pressing on too hard. And that gives us a few of these little darker lines that are going to frame the lighter ones. So again, this highlight of hair sweeping across is absolutely lovely and bright. And the darks that we're now putting in, you can see are making it stand out even more. And you're basically drawing reversed. And then again, coming up to the hair on the side. And we've got this little rectangle of highlighted hair. And then we want a little V of shadow there. And then in amongst all of these, this little bunch of wispy hair that's coming down, just putting little lines in that are allowing the flow of the lighter hairs. And then we come up and do the same. Again, I'm using the paper in the higher parts of the hair on the head. Just, these are lighter tones, but in this part here we've got a couple of darker passages. And then the hair coming off. coming down the left hand side of her head. Now again, we need to just darken these passages over her ear, entry into her ear canal, and there's highlighted hair above. Then we come out onto the cheek, then again back up into this darker tone. And that's looking really, really lovely. Again, we've got more work to do detailing this up and then on the dress as well, but we're just going to do some more work on the hair and then just build more of the details up. So I'm now going to come in and just soften some of this tone using the blending stump. Again, around the eyes, into the hair, and this is, like I say, it's what seems like a complex set of things to draw, but if you just take your time and think about it, like, right, I've just got to draw this darker shape here and then fill this shape in here. So again, I'm just blending some of the tone down into the ear. And then as we come down from underneath the ear and then going up the neck, we've got this highlight here. And then coming across her neck and then coming right up this tone that we've put in the hair, again just softening it, pushing more of the tone around. And this lovely passage of hair here. And you can see we've got those lovely wispy wavy lines. But by using the blending stump, you're still getting a lot of nice soft tone. So I'm going to come in again with this new Tombow eraser, and I can really press on. It's like there you can see we're just getting really good quick highlights. Just dashing across the hair. And then I'm just cleaning it off on my jeans a little. Then we've got these ones at the back, off on the bun. And then, like I say, just some little wispy hairs that are crossing over, being caught in the sunlight. And we can use this just to pull up, and then we can sharpen some of the lines up if we need to afterwards. Now again, it's really pulling out some lovely lines in the lighter toned areas, because it hasn't got to pull off as much of the hair. But you can see there as we just crisscrossing over the hair, and I'm drawing in exactly the same way as I would with a pencil in the hair. And that's creating this absolutely fantastic. Again, I'd normally use a putty rubber, but I said in videos before I'm going to get one of these very slim Tombow erasers just to give it a go. Now again, you can use paint. There's the highlight coming over. You can get these paint correction pens, so I might give that a go one day, but I'm just keeping this one with Taylor, just the drawing paper alone. Now we've got a thin line coming down there and a hair that comes right down across the cheek. Again, you can barely see them, but this is just the level of detail that you can actually add on. So now next to a cheek, we've got some highlighted hairs around the eye, and then going up the side of a forehead. We can really pull out some highlights there, and you can see how that's just totally framed up her face so nicely. Now I'll just brush this off. There's lots of rubbing out in this one, so we're using that a lot. Now I'm just very gently softening the edge of those highlights that we've just put on, and it just makes a face really sing and lift off the page. So again, sharpening the 4B pencil, and we need to now really just start to match up and bring some tone, like we've got the eye here. So I'm using the soft tip of the 4B pencil because it just breaks down nicer and softer than a 2B. And then we're coming across the cheek. This is this kind of X shape. So we've got this like kind of X, the dark comes over from the two ways, meets on the top of a cheek. I'm doing this, and then down by the side of a mouth, and then this area under a chin. And along a jawline. Again, we're just slowly increasing and adding a little bit more tone to build up, because we haven't got like a strong highlight and a strong shadow. This is a great tonal exercise. Someone just kicked off with the chainsaw again. There you go, that. So I've just closed the window so as the sound's a little bit muted. I think it does, I mean, they're very close, so there's not a lot that I can do other than shut the window and hope it doesn't get too hot. Again, up the back of the neck. So here the dark in the hair is as dark as the eyes. And this is how I can just carefully build up the tones. The shadow coming down off her ear. We just need that tone in those creases. Indicate the creases a little bit more. And the darker creases on the neck, we've got those two. As they come around. And then the darker shadow, again just coming across the lower part of a jaw. And the fingers on a hand. You can see that's just framing the face really lovely. The hand's just helping to intensify and clarify the details on Taylor's face. Again, up the side of a lip. And nose and around her eye. Again, the darks of her eyelashes and her eyeliner. That crease coming off on the corner. The crease of the upper eyelid just intensifying a little bit. And again, lower eyelid. And there you can see that's really given us a lot of good definition now on Taylor's face. So now I'm going to come in with a soft paintbrush. And I'm just literally basically doing a makeup. I'm using the soft paintbrush and just swirling it. And this just softens all the tones that we need and the transition. So here, right next to the eye socket, I'm just pushing some over onto the highlight. We need to darken it just underneath, but rather than using the pencil, using the paintbrush like this, you can soften it very gently and very quickly. And there you can see we've got all of these really lovely soft tones. Again, coming back in with the pencil, as we softened off, and we need the dark underneath the lips again. Into her teeth. Just intensify the shadows on the lips, but leaving the reflected highlights in. And there, that's That's looking pretty good. And again, now what we want is this dark shadow bit that's coming down above her ear, caused by a hair. So I'm just using the flat of the 4B pencil. Again, just darkening it carefully. Now I'm using the tip, but very gently in the darker area. It'll just help to sharpen up some of these wispy highlighted lines of a hair. And then coming down the back of her ear. Again, back to using the soft flat of the pencil as we come actually underneath the earlobe. Need to just intensify that shadow in the hair that's right underneath. And that's looking really, really lovely. I hope you're enjoying this. Like I say, it's just a question of going slow, taking your time, keep looking at the reference, and just add little bits of tone. So again, this is just all in this area of hair. All around her ear. Again, we can just darken up the entrance to that ear canal. And then, so there we can really crisp up by that hair. And that thins off. And then the dark over this highlighted bit, we can fill that area in. And so as we've filled that shape in, I'm going to come in with the putty rubber, not the Tombow, and just crisp up these little hairs. I'm going to try the Tombow now. This is surprisingly effective. And you can press on quite hard, which is lovely. And then we need some dark in this passage here. Going out to the edge. I'm just going to come back in with the blending stump and just soften the edges. And the same on the edges of those creases in the neck. Again, just pressing on. I can darken and intensify the shadows where I need them just using the blending stump. Again, lightly pressing on now. That's looking really, really lovely. So now we're going to come down to the dress. The arm, just darkening that line first. And then the top of the dress, got a little bit of shadow. And then here we've got this little clasp between the material. A little metal ring clasp, so you've got a little loop of material there coming up to this part here. And so here we've got the shape of this looped knotted strap that's going over, up and over the top. So I'm using the flat of the pencil again and creating the darker shadow that's going all the way up and then next to that knot. And then we can bring the shadow up and it comes up to where the highlight is. And then gently the strap goes over the top. And so there we have, you can see the strap already starting to lift off the actual page because we've given it that shadow. So again, I'm now softening the shadow right next to the skin, just using the blending stump and pushing that around a little bit, bringing some tone up from the join of the arm to the back. And then we've got that tone that goes up. Again, I'm just feathering it all over the arm. And that gives us just that nice tone, and we've got the shadows and highlights that are reflected all on and around our arm. So again, bring that up to the top where that curves over. But now we've got all of these stripes on the actual dress itself. Now we've got diagonals here, little crisscrosses, and you can see there's like a dark line pattern with a lighter tone inside. So you can see we've just got a number of X's. I'm doing these soft as we come up, and then the in-between ones just a lighter tone. And then on the strap coming up that's thinner, we just indicate a couple of little lines. Then we can just gently increase the tone on the shoulder, off on the outside of the strap as it comes over. So again, I've just wiped the end of this blending stump, and I've just got this neck tone that's coming down. That's looking really lovely. Now, coming in with the Tombow, and that's the bright highlight on. But then on the lower one, I'm using the old putty rubber just to indicate a quick couple of little highlights. Now, all the way down the dress and her arm, we've got the dress that comes out from underneath the left arm. We've got all of these stripes. So now I'm going to draw these in quite quickly and impressionistically. So I'm coming down, and they're not perfectly straight because it's on fabric, so you need that kind of little wiggle and wave. And I'm just looking and kind of following the pattern. Now I've got a couple of lines on, and I'm using the soft flat tip of the pencil to put the dark on. And then we've got the curve that comes down, and it just kind of starts to straighten up a little bit. But this is the darker line. Of the pattern. Now you can match the lines exactly, but that's completely up to you, and it will take a long time. Now I'm being careful because we do have a pattern to follow. We can see here, this is where the seam is. We've got a little kind of V shape, and then that's going to come down, and then we've got a few that come off underneath. Now this kind of crepe bit at the back we'll do the verticals in a second, but first I'm going to do the horizontals. And you see it comes over to here, and like that one there, we've got the very top. So I'm just putting a wiggly line going all the way over. And then we need a soft kind of broken line that follows the pattern as it comes over. So first I'm going to do all the solid lines. As they come over the dress. Again, I'm just doing this very freehand, very loose and impressionistically. Because and again, you can see we're getting the pattern on there really, really nicely. And it's just giving you the impression. So again, I'm following the pattern down and around as it goes underneath her arm. And then we want that lighter tone, and that's inside. So I'm literally just drawing a line very faintly in between the two darker lines, all the vertical ones, and then the same going horizontally. And that's how simple it is to just very quickly and impressionistically get the effect that you need on this checkerboard. Now again, if you want it absolutely exact, then you've got to put them in when you've got the grid up, indicate where these are. Now again, darker ones underneath the arm. Just making those this little bit darker. And now you can see we've got the patterning that we need. Just indicating a bit of shadow caused by the arm. And that's the first part of the dress done. That's looking really lovely. So with the 4B pencil now, what we need to do is follow the trajectory of the dress around Taylor's back. And I'm just doing wiggly lines because of this kind of crepe, compressed, elasticized crepe back that's designed in the dress to stretch. And again, I'm just doing this really quickly. To give an impression, but it does look really, really good, and this is what you can get away with. In a drawing. So you can see we've got all of those horizontal lines going around. And now as a look. These darker lines. Yeah, I'm literally just looking and seeing where there's some, but it really is kind of wiggly. You know, in between each one, just you can see how if you just draw kind of little wiggly lines over, just little, you know, like connecting every other line, you can get the impression of the elasticated back. And we just need to bring this all the way over, different levels of tone. But you can see already that's got the straight lines on, and this area here we've got this more wiggly set of shapes and lines. And so we just need to build this up and just increase the tone as we go. So again, now you can see how just by putting more on, we now led to increase the darks on the stripes. So I'm just going over and you can see it's just increased the sharpness, but I'm still using the soft side of the pencil. And that's given us a lot more indication in the dress and definition. Now I'm just going over some of the wiggly lines. And putting some of the darker tones in that we need. Again, the same on the strap at the back, on those darker X's. Again, some of the horizontal lines. And I'm just making little kind of bitty marks. So that the dress appears. And the actual elasticity is created by the kind of literally just the wiggly lines. So now I'm just drawing more little wiggly lines up and down. And it's just the verticals that are going to work for you. So now I'm just going to come in with a used, before I do that, I'm going to, I'll just knock the blending stump off. Just need to come right to the edge. And then we've actually got some pattern, and I'm just being careful using the soft part on the strap just right on the edge. We need to crisp up the highlight just on the edge of the dress and the top as it comes around the back, and then in all of these little wiggly bits. There's just lots of little highlights. And this is what's going to give us a little bit more of effect of the elasticated back. And there you can see the texture is that little bit different. And I'm just drawing, literally just using the old putty rubber and just drawing some vertical lines up. Now, sorry if my head came in then, I had to really stretch down to get my blending stump. And that's just helping soften everything off. But again, the shadow underneath, a left arm onto the dress. Now you can see that's given a lot more definition, so this elasticated area now looks much better. Again, shadow next to the strap, the arm going up. That's looking absolutely lovely. So again now, just darkening the shadow on the inside of her right arm a little bit. centre of the back, and this part of his shoulder blade, and then the left shoulder blade, softening that off, going up over to the shoulder to this fantastic highlight, and just putting a little bit more of a curve on the shoulder blade. Darkening that tone down. There you can see we've got that lovely highlight showing up on the back, going up over the shoulders and towards the neck. That's looking really lovely. Now, there is, again, I'm coming in with the soft 4B pencil. I'm just being very gentle and careful. And Taylor's got a mole there. So again, now just increasing the dark down her arm. And then coming up her wrist. I'm just going to sharpen the pencil because I was getting like a flat spot. So I've got the soft tip. Again, I'm just simply cross-hatching, but just building a slight layer of extra tone up in this V area on a hand. And there you can see we've got that lovely shape of the thumb coming off onto her wrist. This little darker tone coming down the outside of her arm. Bottom of her arm, coming around the joint and her elbow. And just leaving a little bit of reflected highlight going to the edge of her arm. Now that's looking very, very nice. Again, I hope you're enjoying this. It's just a question of building your tonal skills up. Again, inside the finger, on the hand. And we can just increase this dark on the fingers. And then there we have the fingers just darkened down a little bit more in tune with the jaw and the cheek. And this is now just nice final details. Bit of dark on the top of the shoulder, just to crisp that up. Going towards the neck. Again, this ear. I'm going to come back in with the brush. Just soften these tones, but very gently. On a face, on a nose, again round the eyes. Now I'm going to come in with the clean putty rubber, and we've got this crisp highlight on the top of the shoulder. Now I am just dabbing the edge just to soften it a little bit. And then highlight where it goes past the strap. And then onto the back of the neck. And that just goes up a little bit. Now again, just took a little bit off, so I can just put that back on with the blending stump. Then the top of the arm. Now I'm going to come in with the 2B pencil, just because the tip it's still soft, but it'll give me definition without amongst the hair, unlike the 4B that would just obliterate everything very quickly. I can now just build up some of the details in the hair in the shadow areas. And where it comes out into these lighter areas. So I can just indicate some of the wispy hairs, like the lines, the shadow that would be underneath them. Again, just drawing very carefully but quickly in the direction that a wispy hair is all kind of floating around. And again, you can see it just makes a little bit of difference and just helps to give that extra little bit of definition. Again, the highlight at the back where the bun is, and the hair's folded in on itself. And then these fantastic little highlighted bits it all just helps to bring the drawing completely together. Now again, this is just final details. This is, you know, you can keep going for a very, very, very long time. So I'm just going over some of the lines that I've just put down with the blending stump, just softening those out. And then come back in with clean putty rubber. Going over some of the highlights that we pulled out earlier. And you get that really lovely crisp highlight that we actually need. Now again, on these hairs on the side, I'm just dabbing where the sunlight's hitting a few, and we get that fantastic kind of diffused light effect. Again, by the side of a neck. I'm just playing and messing about. That's really lovely. I hope you've had a lot of fun. This is, like I say, I'm just putting some of these extra little highlighted flares in. And it just helps give a little bit more clarity, definition, detail, joy and fun in the actual drawing. So here I'm going to come in with the Tombow because we've got these couple of little really bright highlights. And I can pull that out and then carefully come back in with a 4B pencil and make that very crisp hair stand out. And then the same for this one that's coming around the ear from the bun. And the ones above. Now I'm just increasing the dark around Taylor's eyes a little bit more. But that is Taylor Swift from Folklore. I hope you've had fun. I've had an absolute blast drawing this. It does seem very complicated, but breaking it down into those shapes using that grid and then just building up the tone slowly, you can produce a drawing like that. Anyway, thanks ever so much. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next drawing lesson. Take care. Ta-da.